The subway was bustling with its usual chaos, commuters lost in their own worlds, headphones in, eyes glued to their phones. Among the crowd, a little girl clung to a pole, her wide eyes scanning the sea of strangers. What started as an ordinary ride quickly took a chilling turn when an unfamiliar man stepped closer to her, his behavior raising silent alarms. He reached out, grabbing her arm. Her small voice trembled as she whispered, "Let me go." Passengers around her either froze or looked away, unsure of what to do. But not everyone stayed silent. Unbeknownst to the man, an off-duty Marine was sitting just a few feet away. His sharp instincts kicking in the moment he noticed something was off. With a calm yet unwavering demeanor, he watched, assessing the situation, ready to intervene. The Marine, a protector by nature, wasn't going to let this go unchecked. What happened next was a moment of bravery and humanity that would leave everyone on the subway stunned. In a split second, the Marine decided to act, but how far would he go to protect a child he'd never met? Stay tuned to find out how this tense situation unfolded. The off-duty Marine shifted in his seat, his sharp eyes fixed on the man gripping the girl's arm. He didn't want to cause panic, but every instinct told him something was wrong. The girl's body language screamed discomfort. Her small frame stiffened, and she avoided eye contact with everyone around her. The man, on the other hand, seemed oblivious to the tension he was creating. The Marine glanced around the subway car. Most passengers were either too distracted or too afraid to act. It frustrated him, but he knew it wasn't uncommon. People often hesitated in moments like this, unsure if stepping in would make things better or worse. He could feel his pulse quicken as he calculated his next move. He wasn't just trained for moments of physical confrontation. He was also taught to observe, to understand the situation before acting. Was this man really a threat? Or was it a misunderstanding? The Marine thought about his own family, his nieces and nephews who trusted him to always have their back. He couldn't risk leaving this unchecked. The subway slowed as it neared the next station, and the Marine prepared himself for what might come next. Time was running out to decide. As the subway screeched to a halt, the man tightened his grip on the little girl's arm, pulling her closer. She whimpered softly, her voice barely audible over the noise of passengers moving toward the doors. The Marine leaned forward slightly, his posture calm but ready. He could feel the tension building like a coiled spring. Every moment he waited, the knot in his stomach grew tighter. Nearby, a young woman noticed the Marine's focused gaze. She'd followed his line of sight, her eyes widening as she realized what was happening. Her phone trembled in her hand as she discreetly started recording, unsure if she was helping or just another bystander. The Marine caught her glance and gave her a small nod, silently acknowledging her awareness. It was a shared moment of understanding in a car full of uncertainty. The man glanced around nervously, as if sensing the growing attention. His movements became more erratic, his grip shifting as the girl tried to pull away. Was he panicking, or was he planning something worse? The Marine's mind raced, weighing his options. He couldn't afford to escalate the situation recklessly, but he also couldn't wait much longer. The doors closed again, and the train lurched forward. Whatever was about to happen, it had to happen soon. The subway car felt heavier now, the air thick with unease. The Marine adjusted his position, muscles tensing as he prepared for whatever came next. The man was muttering something under his breath, words too low to make out, but the little girl's eyes were wide with fear. She looked around helplessly, silently pleading for someone, anyone, to intervene. The Marine's pulse pounded in his ears as he made his decision. He slowly stood, his movements deliberate, drawing the man's attention without startling him. "Hey," the Marine said calmly, his voice firm but measured. "Is everything okay here?" The man turned, startled, his eyes darting between the Marine and the other passengers now watching closely. "It's fine," he replied quickly, his grip still firm on the girl. "She's my niece. We're just in a hurry." The Marine didn't move, his gaze locked on the man. "She doesn't look fine," he said, his voice low enough to stay steady but loud enough to be heard over the train's hum. The girl's lips quivered as tears welled in her eyes. The subway slowed again, nearing another station. The Marine noticed the man shifting his weight, his free hand twitching nervously. Whatever this man was planning, it was about to unfold, and the Marine knew he had to act before the moment slipped away. As the train slowed to a stop, the tension between the Marine and the man was palpable. Passengers nearby shifted uncomfortably, torn between fear and curiosity. The Marine took a step closer, his presence looming, silently daring the man to make his next move. But just as the doors hissed open, something unexpected happened. A middle-aged woman seated near the exit suddenly stood up, her eyes locked on the man. "Excuse me," she said sharply, her voice cutting through the murmur of the train. "I've seen you before." Her words stopped the man cold. He froze, his grit on the girl faltering. The Marine glanced at her, trying to piece together what she meant, but her expression told him she wasn't guessing. The man's demeanor shifted, his confidence wavered, and for the first time, a flicker of fear crossed his face. "You're mistaken," he muttered, tugging the girl closer again, but it was clear he was rattled. The woman didn't back down. "No, I'm not. I saw your picture on a flyer. You're not supposed to be near children." Her words sent a ripple of shock through the car. The Marine's instincts screamed that this wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was something far worse. As the passengers processed what they'd heard, the man darted a glance toward the open doors, his body coiled like a spring. The Marine knew he couldn't wait any longer. The subway doors stayed open for what felt like an eternity. The man's eyes darted between the Marine, the middle-aged woman, and the platform beyond. The little girl whimpered softly, her tears streaming down her face. The Marine stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "Let her go," he said, his voice firm and steady, leaving no room for argument. In a flash, the man made his move, lunging toward the open doors with the girl in tow. But the Marine was faster. With years of training kicking in, he grabbed the man's arm, twisting it just enough to make him release his grip. The girl stumbled back into the Marine's other arm, and he quickly guided her behind him, shielding her from harm. The man, now cornered, glared at the Marine, his breathing ragged. Before he could make another move, two plainclothes transit officers, alerted by the commotion, stepped onto the train. "We've got him," one of them said, producing handcuffs. The man tried to resist, but it was over. The Marine handed the girl to the woman who had spoken up earlier, her kind eyes reassuring the frightened child. As the officers escorted the man off the train, the Marine let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Just as the doors began to close, the girl tugged at his sleeve and whispered, "Thank you." But as the train started moving, the Marine noticed something. The young woman who had been recording earlier was gone, slipping off the train unnoticed. In her seat, she'd left behind a small folded piece of paper. He picked it up and opened it, reading the words that sent a chill down his spine. "This isn't over. Watch your back." As the train rattled on, the Marine sat back down, the note still in his hand. His instincts told him there was more to the story than what had just unfolded, but for now, his focus was on the little girl. She sat with a kind woman, holding her hand tightly. Her tears had stopped, but her face still showed the traces of fear. The Marine leaned over and spoke gently, "You're safe now. Do you know where your parents are?" The girl nodded slowly and whispered an address. The woman offered to take her there, and the Marine gave her a small smile of gratitude. He wanted to follow, to ensure everything would be okay, but he trusted the woman's protective demeanor. As the train reached its next stop, the Marine stood and watched as the woman and the girl exited together, disappearing into the bustling crowd. He looked back at the note one last time before crumpling it in his fist. Whatever loose ends remained, he knew he'd done what mattered most. He had protected a vulnerable child. As the subway carried him deeper into the city, he sat quietly, reflecting on how a single moment of courage could ripple far beyond what anyone might expect.